Imagine a man not just walking among us, but living an entirely fabricated life, so meticulously crafted that he fooled seasoned law enforcement, high-ranking military officials, and even U.S. congressmen. This isn't a movie plot, it's the chilling reality of a man who called himself Bobby Paul Edwards, a proclaimed Texas Ranger who for years operated with impunity, leaving a trail of questions and shattered trust. But the most terrifying part, he never actually existed. To truly grasp the audacity of this deception, we need to understand the myth he created. Bobby Paul Edwards wasn't just some guy in a costume. He presented himself as a highly decorated, enigmatic former Texas Ranger. He spoke in clipped, authoritative tones, wore impeccable suits, and seemed to possess an aura of quiet competence that immediately commanded respect. His stories, always a little vague but rich in tantalizing detail, hinted at a career filled with covert operations, international intrigue, and profound personal sacrifice. He claimed to have been involved in classified missions, operating across borders, and even hinted at high-level clearance that allowed him to bypass standard procedures. He rarely sought attention, but somehow always found himself in rooms where attention mattered. He became a fixture in certain high-profile circles, attending political fundraisers, appearing at charity events, and even speaking at law enforcement seminars. He had a way of making people feel important just by being in his presence, subtly implying that they were part of a secret world too. He was a master of cultivating trust, often offering unsolicited advice or insider information that, while seemingly innocuous, reinforced his image as a knowledgeable, connected individual. He didn't just tell stories, he lived them, projecting an image so consistent and believable that few dared to question it. He even carried what appeared to be legitimate-looking credentials, and when asked would produce a badge that to the untrained eye looked perfectly authentic. He wasn't a blustering braggart, he was a silent operator, a man of mystery, which only added to his allure. His fabricated life wasn't just a facade, it was an intricate living performance, decades in the making, designed to bypass scrutiny and appeal to the authority-revering instincts of those he encountered. How could one man construct such a flawless illusion? The first thread began to unravel not because of a grand error, but a series of subtle anomalies. Real Texas Rangers, a tight-knit and historically proud organization, started hearing whispers about this Bobby Paul Edwards. Rangers are known for their quiet professionalism, their methodical approach, and crucially, they know each other. The name Bobby Paul Edwards simply didn't ring a bell. He wasn't in their roles, wasn't part of any graduating class, and his supposed exploits didn't align with their records. Initially, these were just curiosities, dismissed as perhaps a misunderstanding or a reclusive former operative. But as Edwards's public profile grew, so did the unease. He was seen with genuine law enforcement officials, snapped in photos with politicians, and even appeared in local news segments, always introduced as the former Texas Ranger. This wasn't merely a personal delusion, it was a public declaration of a false identity, a direct challenge to the very integrity of the institution he claimed to represent. Detective Jay Holland, a seasoned investigator with the Texas Department of Public Safety, DPS, the parent agency of the Rangers, found himself assigned to quietly look into these increasing reports. He started by checking official records, a routine procedure that immediately raised red flags. No Bobby Paul Edwards had ever served as a Ranger, no personnel file, no academy records, no retirement benefits, nothing. This was more than a clerical error, it was a complete absence. But Edwards's deception was so convincing that even with this initial evidence, Holland had to approach with extreme caution. The man had too many powerful connections, too many people vouching for him. Discrediting him without irrefutable proof could lead to significant embarrassment for the DPS if they were wrong. So began a meticulous, painstaking investigation that stretched for months. Holland and his team meticulously combed through public appearances, interviewed people who had interacted with Edwards, and started piecing together the timeline of his supposed career. They analyzed the details of his stories, cross-referencing them with known historical events, looking for inconsistencies, any small crack in the carefully constructed edifice. They discovered that Edwards was adept at knowing just enough about Ranger history and protocol to sound authentic, but never enough to betray deep, intimate knowledge. He spoke in generalities, relying on his gravitas and the deference shown to him to deflect deeper probing. The more they dug, the more elusive the real Bobby Paul Edwards became. He wasn't just a former Ranger, he was a ghost. This wasn't just a simple case of stolen valor, it was something far more sinister, a chameleon-like existence built on deliberate, prolonged fraud. The question shifted from, who is Bobby Paul Edwards, to, who is the man pretending to be Bobby Paul Edwards, and what is he really up to? The deeper they delved, the more it became clear that they were not just chasing a fake identity, but an entire life built on lies, with unknown motives lurking beneath the polished surface. The investigation finally bore fruit, revealing a far more astonishing truth than anyone could have predicted. The man calling himself Bobby Paul Edwards was actually a career con artist named David Ronald Johnson, a notorious charlatan with a lengthy criminal record stretching back decades, encompassing everything from financial fraud to identity theft. David Johnson, unlike the stoic and honorable persona of Edwards, was a master of manipulation, a chameleon who had perfected the art of assuming new identities to gain access and exploit trust. His past was littered with discarded aliases and defrauded victims. The Texas Ranger facade was simply his most elaborate and successful creation yet. Using sophisticated techniques, Johnson had managed to acquire official-looking documents, including fake badges and law enforcement IDs that were incredibly convincing, even to some trained eyes. He understood the nuances of institutional trust, knowing that people were less likely to question someone presenting as a high-ranking official. He moved discreetly, carefully selecting his targets, primarily those in positions of influence or wealth, making him even harder to detect. The Texas Rangers, once they had indisputable evidence, moved swiftly. The confrontation after months of covert investigation was anticlimactic in its execution but profound in its implications. David Johnson, finally confronted with the overwhelming evidence of his true identity, offered little resistance. The carefully constructed world of Bobby Paul Edwards crumbled around him, exposing the bare bones of a man whose entire existence was a lie. The revelation sent shockwaves through Texas political and law enforcement circles. How could such an intricate deception have gone on for so long? How had this man managed to fool so many, including individuals who held positions of immense responsibility and power? The answer lay in Johnson's, or Edwards's, unparalleled skill in psychological manipulation and his deep understanding of how to exploit human trust and reverence for authority. To this day, the case of the Imposter Texas Ranger remains a haunting testament to the power of deception and the vulnerabilities within even our most esteemed institutions. David Ronald Johnson, or Bobby Paul Edwards, served time for his elaborate fraud, but the deeper questions linger. What was his ultimate goal beyond the sheer thrill of the masquerade? How many more layers of his deceit did investigators fail to uncover? The story serves as a chilling reminder that appearances can be profoundly misleading, and that reality sometimes is far stranger and more frightening than fiction. It forces us to reconsider the subtle ways we validate authority figures and highlights the critical importance of skepticism, even when faced with the most convincing of personas. The ghost of Bobby Paul Edwards, the man who never was but felt so real, continues to echo through the halls of Texas lore, a perpetual enigma, a warning in plain sight. If you're intrigued by these deep dives into the shadows of human nature, perhaps the next video, exploring the mysterious disappearance of a prominent scientist without a trace, will offer another glimpse into the unexplained.